Yeah.
I've been back to back all day, so I did not get a chance to read your consult form yet.
No worries.
So go ahead and fill me in.
Yeah, so, sit bud. So Finn is about a year old, and we've done some training with him when he was like a small puppy. We were doing like,
It's like basic. Like
yeah, basic stuff, which
stay.
he does pretty well for the most part, but he's just, and I know that a lot of this is puppy, but we realized when we went to a lake house that he does not come back to us if we call him.
Okay.
And if he just
If
wants
he
to
sees
do his
something
own
he
thing,
wants,
he's
yeah.
gonna
Sure.
go do it, you know, like.
Sure.
And so we just for safety reasons with him, I think we want to have full confidence that he's gonna do basically whatever we ask him to. If we need him to come and
Yep.
stay away from the water or something, or around here,
Or if he's
just
in the
be.
water, or one of the, just it's in terms of on land, but also in water, he loves swimming, so
Sure.
he'll go in the water and we've had
back.
multiple instances where we've had to go after him, and so it's like a safety hazard for all of us.
Yeah.
But then also, we have this lead now, which has been life
Yeah.
saving for us, but he's a horrible
Walker.
with
Yeah.
a harness.
Yeah.
Even a collar too.
It sticks back with the harness.
He you need 2 hands. It's
Yeah,
a
he's
wrestling
gonna-
match. It's
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this, he's great with this thing, except for the occasional, he'll stop and pull over and start scratching his face and stuff, and he runs away when I try and put it on him, which you expect, but
Gotcha.
it's new, so.
Oh, how long have you been incorporating for?
I think Labor Day we got it.
Yeah, a little over a month.
Yeah,
Okay.
every walk from then, pretty much.
Have you just been using it for the walk, and was there any training done with it, or was it just you just kind of
We
put it on?
slowly introduced it.
Yeah,
I
small
mean,
walks.
I guess not really, nothing formal outside of slowly introducing
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
so-
No one telling us what to do, we just,
Yeah.
took it and went with it.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I would say that's kind of it.
He still kind of jumps on people sometimes
Oh,
when
yeah.
he sees them.
Mhm.
That's on the street in our house. Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
Really, I think it was overarchingly listening.
Yeah,
And
just
then walking.
being a better listener,
Yeah.
and better walker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, for the most part, he's extremely smart, and he knows what he can get away with, which I think is part of the problem. He's picked up on what I ask him to do, and when he does it right, and he gets a treat, and then he doesn't do it, he's like, I don't see your treats,
Sure.
He kind of knows that now. So,
Yeah.
after a walk, my hands are just kind of covered in treats.
Yeah.
I'm just yeah. But it definitely for example, one of the things when we put this on, I started doing heel on the walk. I would stop and let him go, and then he'd look back and I'd say heel, and at Labor Day he would not. He wouldn't come back to me.
Mhm.
And recently he's started doing that where I'll practice and I'll be away from him, and he'll just say without a treat, Finn, come, or heel, and then he'll come back and
With
he'll
a-
turn
with a
around on my
best.
left side, and I'm like,
Not the best.
so he's doing it, but just not.
I think
The
it's
rate,
Yeah,
he's just
yeah.
not super consistent.
And if I don't have treats, he probably won't do it.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
Anything else?
That's kind of the.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah, and we were recommended here from Dan Simak and Caitlin. They have a dog named Webster. He's
Oh, yeah.
an English cream retriever.
We
Yes.
met the dog a couple of weeks ago, and we were
Yeah.
oh my god.
We were like, oh,
I think they moved. I think they're worker park.
They,
yeah.
they just
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because so when I trained with them, they were in Lincoln Park.
Yeah.
yeah.
We trained out of Oz Park, and then I have a client that I do in-homes with, and he wanted to meet at Wicker Park.
Okay.
And I'm training his dog, and I saw Webster walking with Dan.
Oh,
Yeah,
funny.
yeah. It was funny because they had just moved.
Yeah.
Because it caught me off guard, and I was just like, why is Dan over here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
with
then
his
I'm like,
dog.
oh yeah, that's right, they moved to Wicker Park.
Yeah.
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 So we saw Webster at a party with a bunch of people, and we were like, Finn would be sniffing things and
Crazy.
saying, yeah,
Not listen.
yeah, not sprinting around, but just saying hi and smelling and doing everything.
In the
So
way.
We saw Webster, and
Webster
he's
was
just
so
like,
well behaved and listened to Dan.
Yeah.
Caitlin.
yeah.
Granted that they might have different personalities, but still
Sure,
Webster
yeah.
was.
They're the same
well-behaved,
age,
yeah.
so it's, yeah.
And you can actually see Webster's videos on our YouTube channel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so if you go to my website, you click on any one of those videos, it should take you to my YouTube channel. And then you can just search, because it says search this channel.
Sure.
Just type in Webster, and you can pop them up and you just see the process.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Webster was a big pull, if I remember, a big puller, because they used to have him on a harness. And,
Yeah.
and he's the Golden's a pretty sturdy
Yeah.
dogs.
Right.
And then I think within just class, he was already walking.
That's what Dan said. He's like,
Yeah.
he's in your pocket, is what he
Yeah.
said. I was like, yeah, wow, that's nice.
So did they go over how they trained, the methods that they use and everything?
briefly, like
Yeah.
maybe, yeah. very
Okay,
high
I'll
level.
explain
Yeah.
all that stuff. So I train primarily using prong and e-collar, mainly e-collar, every now and then prong. I mean, we do food stuff too for puppies under 6 months. Over 6 months, they're gonna be on remote collar, at least if they train with us.
Sure.
The reason why I do that is because obviously for puppies under 6 months, it's like kindergarten, you know,
Yeah.
basic
Yeah.
foundational stuff, shaping things, mainly potty and crate training. But at 6 months, dogs begin to treat puppies as adults, okay? So then I go, well, then I can train them as an adult. So I can have a 6-month-old puppy already off-leash trained, okay?
Sure.
They just learn a little bit slower. We had a Doberman, her name is Azula, she's a brown Dobie, very sweet. The owner wanted to do e-collar, I told her, you know, wait till she's 6 months. Because I should think she emailed us when she was 2 months. And then like a few months went by, and then she's like, I really want to start the training. I was like, well, she's only 4 months. I'm like, we can technically train a dog or puppy as young as 2 months. The issue is the owner's psychology, right? As they're typically not comfortable with it until the puppy is 6 months, because by 6 months, puppies are driven the owner crazy to that point,
Sure.
right? They train the water bottle, the can of pennies, and the timeout, and at that point, they're like, okay, Jesse, we just want an answer, right?
Right.
So using e-collar at 6 months is also easier just with the human.
Yeah.
But for Azula's owner, she's like, nope, I'm ready. Like, can she train now? I said, yeah, 4 months because it's a larger breed dog, we can start now. So by the time of 5 months, she was already off-leash trained. Okay, she did really well with the training, took pressure well, very smart, very sweet. She comes for daycare and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Same temperament, because people always think like, oh, you use e-collar, you're gonna like make the dog scared, or you're gonna make the dog more nervous. I go, no, e-collar will not make something that's not their habit. Okay, so if I have a perfectly stable puppy like Azula, took pressure well, you would like, there's no change to personality. The sweetest dog, nothing's changed other than she's very much off-leash reliable.
Yeah.
And I can have another puppy who I use e-collar and they can seem very fearful, but that's a puppy that's already a fear-based dog.
Yeah.
So it's like with humans. Some humans, I think the most common thing now is anxiety, right? Some people just naturally just more anxious people. I mean, I can get anxious, but very few things make me anxious, you know? But there are other people where like the littlest thing makes them anxious, right? So anxiety, fear, and nervousness are all stress responses. So it's just a matter of, it comes down to that creature's genetic component, okay?
Sure.
So perfectly safe to use. E-collar is simply a muscle stimulator. So if you've ever been to a chiropractor or physical therapist, if you had TENS or stim therapy, that is an e-collar, okay? So for humans, you may see it, actually, have you ever seen when they recreate labor contraction pains in men?
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Now that's a bit different, right? Because labor contractions obviously are uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? They're very painful.
Yeah.
So that TENS unit is operating on a much higher level
Got it.
to recreate that, but it's really just muscle contractions, okay? So they use it a lot in sports therapy. They use it for like breaking up scar tissue and muscle. They even do where they'll have the TENS to a wire, to a needle, and they'll pierce your skin to reach a deeper tissue to move that muscle, like that specific muscle, okay? So for dogs, it's the same thing, except it's on a collar. So there's the two probes that go against the neck, and then you would see the muscle twitch in that area if we were to have contact, okay?
Got it.
So if he's wearing it here and you see this moving, there's nothing going on over here, okay? It's all centralized. So the reason why we use remote collar is because right off the bat you get off-leash control. Okay, in my book, it's the only tool that guarantees off-leash control or gets you as close to a guarantee of. Food, well, if he's doing something that's more rewarding, food goes out the window.
Yep.
If he's under too much stress, food is out the window. If you're using like a gentle leader, which is a great tool for what you have, but as soon as you take that leash off, you no longer have control.
Yeah.
Prong collar, slip chain, no pull harness, any other tool is now leash-based. As soon as you remove the leash, now you don't have control anymore.
Right.
Yep.
E-collar doesn't matter. On or off leash, we have control, okay? Because it's electronic, right? It's a press of a button to stimulate the muscle. Dogs are physical animals. So like, let's say Finn here was at the dog park and he got out of line with another dog. How do you think they would correct him?
The other dog,
Mhm.
they would probably like nip at his neck.
Yeah, they nip or bite him,
Yeah.
right? 'Cause that's how they correct each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So think of the e-collar as a bite on the button, so to speak, is that it allows you to make contact with him, whether or not he's on or off leash. So since dogs are physical animals, we're using a physical approach to teach them, okay? Now, when I say physical approach, doesn't mean that you're yanking your dog all over the place. It just means you have a physical connection and we're using that to shape the things that we want,
Yeah.
okay? So the first thing that we always teach is heel. which is, so heel is taught a couple of different ways. Some people teach heel as a come to my heel and then like walk with me.
Yep.
And then others teach it as heel means walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop, okay? Or a combination of the two. I'm the latter, okay? So the first one would be more so of a recall, come, and then I would go into a heel if I need the dog to stay with me, okay? So we always teach the heel first in most cases, because if you put an e-collar on a dog and you press the button, you would most likely see him try to move, okay? And you most likely want to move away.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know what it is, so his
Right.
first instinct is typically a
Right.
flight response,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's a moving behavior. So we use heel, a moving command or behavior, so that when Finn feels the collar, he is allowed to express the need to move in response, but then we're showing him to not move away from us, but to actually move with us, okay? So also leash pulling is one of the most common things that people want to resolve. Leash reactivity is also another very common thing that people want to fix. Heel is the answer to both of those things.
Yep.
Also, he's not meant to have his muscle contracted. So typically, in the city of Chicago, most people walk their dogs at least 3 times a day, 7 days a week, right? To go potty. So this is something you're going to practice 3 times a day, 7 days a week. So it gets him over the concept of the e-collar faster,
Yeah.
as opposed to something that we do infrequently.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm depending on the dog, like once you see them get exposed to the collar, it kind of shows you their true personality.
Sure.
Okay? So let's say he happens to be a very flighty dog and we apply the e-collar. You would most likely see him go into flight mode, okay? Our instinct typically is, uh-oh, he's getting scared, he wants to run away, you should stop.
Yeah.
But then if you do that, well, now he learns that if he tries to run, you'll stop with the exercise. But then 2, if something ever were to spook him and you didn't work him through it, you're not going to have control of the situation.
Yep.
Okay, so we work through all that stuff. That's actually how we build confidence.
Yeah.
Okay, people think that it makes it worse, and that's not the case. Making it worse would be he goes into flight mode, and then we let it happen.
Yeah.
We work him through it. So he says, "I can't do this. I want to run away," and I go, "Yes, you can." And I make him, and then he goes, "Oh crap, I'm actually doing this." Okay,
Yeah.
and that's how the confidence is built. So. The reason for working through it is, building off of that, is the most common thing that dogs run away from is like a firework. It's like my pit, if you hear dogs barking, it's my pit Chihuahua right here in my office. My pit hates fireworks, okay? So one time I was walking through Logan Boulevard, and it was like October, August of last year, and somebody just randomly goes with a firework.
Yeah.
And I'm walking him on a leash, didn't have their e-collars because I was not intending on letting him off leash. But I wasn't intending someone to set off a firework in October or August. Right?
Yeah.
So now my pit goes into panic mode. And now she's foraging and like pulling because she just wants to get home. And I'm sitting there like, oh, like this sucks, right? I have to deal with it. Had I had my e-collar, I could have got her back
Yeah.
under control. She'd
Sure.
still be anxious, but I would have something to kind of pacify her.
Yeah.
So it's like in the movies when someone's freaking out and they like slap them in the face to like settle them down.
Yeah.
Very much similar.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the physicality of it of like, hey, get a grip.
Yeah.
So, and I've had it happen to clients where their dog took off in response to a firework, and they were able to return their dog because of the e-collar. There was a neighbor, 2 Webster, I'm pretty sure they know each other because they all played within the same area. The dog's name was Nash. They were my first post-COVID client, and we were training out of Treps Park, which is in Lincoln
Yeah.
Park. You know, Park, yeah.
Yep.
So typically heel is class 1 and 2, and in my class 3 we're jumping into recall. So we had Nash's second class, and Nash had dislocated us in the shoulder 3 times, and sent him to the ER twice in 2 years.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and he's a friendly
What
dog.
kind of
Yeah.
dog is this?
He's a mix. He's like some
Okay.
kind of like lab mix. Like if
Okay.
you see, it's interesting because he's white, kind of lavish, and he has like these yellowish Dalmatian marks.
Okay.
80, 90 pound dog.
Okay, so, yeah.
Yeah, so it's super friendly. So just through the pulling
Yeah.
on the leash, he did this to the owner, okay? So within the class, we resolved the leash pulling stuff. Did the second class, but between class 2 and 3, Nash took off on the owner out of Treps Park towards Clifton because he saw his friend across the street of Clifton, okay? So the owner, kind of off the cuff, was just like max out the power, 127 continuous, which is the harshest thing you could do.
Yeah.
And she asked me, she's like, I know we're gonna do recall today, but I just wanted to tell you, because I don't know if I screwed up the training. This happened, I had the 127 continuous. He came back, but I'm just scared I screwed up. And I said, no. Like, because it's either you gamble your dog getting in the street if you do nothing, or like it's a guarantee, right?
Yeah.
Or you gamble returning your dog, worst case scenario, he still ends up in the street anyways, right?
Yeah.
In her case, he returned. So like, even though we hadn't covered recall yet, she still had a means in an emergency type situation to read the AC thing that clicked. Was able to return it. Okay. So, and she's not the first person that's happened to. Like, before we even cover recall, something happens and they jump to the roof. But that's the capacity of the e-collar, is that even in that kind of situation, you can regain control, pending your willingness to like work through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, first thing we always teach is the heel. Everything that we do now is verbal instruction, so I don't need to touch Finn. You would show up with Finn and your remote e-collar system, and I walk you through everything. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's all hands-on for you. Nothing is tied to me. Everything, you're learning everything from beginning to end. So we have the first class, I'll give you your homework, and then we come back class 2 a week later. You give me feedback, how's he doing, any issues. If everything's going great, you work on the second half of heal.
Okay.
And then by class 3, we're jumping into recall. Okay, so pending everything's going well, we just keep progressing, okay? Because in your case, it's easier because it's an obedience case.
Yeah.
When there's typically variables when it's like a behavioral, like reactivity case or an aggression case or something, because it's not only obedience control, it's also like we got this behavior to work on, okay?
Right.
Obedience tends to be pretty straightforward. The only thing that could act as a variable is just his response to the e-collar check,
Yeah.
okay? Questions on any of that stuff so far?
I don't think so. At least not for me.
In terms of like your life with Finn, what would that look like if you could have what you wanted, control-wise? What would you be doing with Finn for his life?
Well, we probably would be able to take him more places.
Yeah, like sometimes, like I would,
I guess right now, we don't really, we sometimes will take him to like a patio, or like, we don't really take him to like a friend's house, but maybe like a friend's house. But we know in doing that, it's like not really that fun for us, because like we're constantly like dealing with him, and he's
doing
like
this, he's getting
not
it.
listening. And actually, this is like a good version. Usually there's other dogs around and everything like that. So it'd be nice to be able to take him more places. Also, I think right now it's like stressful or worrisome, and I also feel bad when we leave town, and we either right now use like Rover or like Family or something for boarding option right now, and like we just feel bad because like he's been like a horrible walker, mainly before we got the lead, but then also we know that he doesn't listen that well, so I'm always nervous he's gonna like take off or something, and they won't be able to like get him back or something.
Sure.
So I think I'd feel better leaving him. I don't know like if it's protocol to like let other people use the e-collar or not, or if he would be better behaved without it also, but
Or just have it on once he is accustomed to it, and then he's just like, oh, it's all good.
yeah.
But like the one Rover person messaged us like the day we were coming back, and we were gonna go get him, and it was like, just wanted to let you know, like, and we had this in the notes, that he pulls very, very hard, use 2 hands. She was like, both of my hands have sores in them from pulling, like, you should tell any other people that watch him, and we were like, we did tell you.
Yeah.
And then we saw her, and she was like a very small person. And we didn't give her the lead, we gave her the harness. And so
sure.
she was just like, probably, you know what I mean? So, I still go back to like the lake house though, because like we spend a lot of time up there in the summers, and I would love nothing more than to just like let him run around and stuff without having to be like, where's Finn? Where's Finn?
Right now we like have like a giant basically thing tied to a tree.
Like a line or whatever.
Yeah, like a line on a tree. And it's long, so he can run around, but like it'd be nice for him to be outside and like have the freedom and be able to go swimming, because he likes swimming. And like listen to us, because like right now, if we let him go on the lake, it's like guess wear a life vest or just like be with him because we know he'll possibly swim away.
Actually, all this has actually brought another thing up, which I would love to be doing with him, is play fetch with him at the park in Chicago, which I can't do right now because I can't trust him to, once I throw it, come. He has come back, like we tried it once, we threw it about 3 times, and then he saw a butterfly and took off towards the lake.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, we're not doing that. So I would love to be able to do that, but cannot do that right now.
Sure.
So it's pretty much fetch in the house and taking him for walks. Doesn't love dog parks, so like I would need another form of exercise for
Sure. Okay. So we have going to restaurants, we have going to the park and having him off leash and play ball.
Yeah.
Being at the lake house. So the reason why I asked that is that's what kind of determines how long like the program would be.
Sure.
Okay. So you're like in the 6, 9, 12 class range, and I'll write down what you can get from each one.
Sure.
So most people fall within the 6 to 9 class range. The 12 class or 12-week program are like people that do everything with their dog. You know, they go to restaurants, they go to the dog beach, they go to the park, they walk them off leash, they go hiking, they go on picnics, they get to a friend's house, like their dog is everywhere with them, right? That's like a 12 class program. So think of it as like 6 classes is walk my dog, go to the park, 9 is walk my dog, go to the park or restaurants, and then 12 is what I just mentioned, everything with my dog.
Yeah.
Okay. So for like a 6 class program, there would be 2 classes on heel. 3rd class would be recall. So heel tends to be the fastest thing that we teach because we of course walk our dogs 3 times a day, 7 days a week.
Yep.
Recall tends to be the longest. It takes the longest because you got to go to the park, pop it in the leash, hope there's stuff to work with like distractions and things like that.
Yeah.
Practicing your recall. And then you have to build it to be reliable with whatever would be applicable. So like let's say he has like prey drive towards squirrels, you have to practice around squirrels, butterflies, you know. Yes, everything.
Leaves.
Your training's only as good as what in the environment you practice in. So like if you always practice like at the same park and it's an empty park, yeah, he'll be great there.
Right.
But the moment you take him to the lake house, all of a sudden it's gonna be a bigger problem, right? So we have to want to practice in all those different kind of contexts. So that's 3 classes there. The other, I can cover a lot within 6. It just depends on how well he's progressing or how well you're following through. So 2 on heel, 1 on recall. There's typically a follow-up to the recall. I kind of just get a feel for it depending on the owners because recall is very coordination heavy. So there might be a 4th, the 4th one might be a recall. And then if everything's going great because it's just obedience stuff, we can teach stationary control within 6 classes. So like a go to your bed and don't get off for like the next 2 hours while we're at a restaurant. Or like you can plop a towel down and he goes there and he just chills in the towel. So there's 6 commands: sit, stay, down, come, place, heel. Heel and recall being like the most important ones in my book. Walk with me without pulling, and come when I call you. Place is a stationary command or control. So sit down and place are stationary commands. Sit, put your butt down, don't move. Down, lay down, don't move. Place, go to this object and don't get off. I usually opt for the place because it's the easiest to teach and reinforce for people. Because it's just go here and don't get off.
Yeah.
You can sit, stand, lay down, just don't get off, right?
Yeah.
So people really like it because it's a minimal amount of work, but it gives them a lot of control.
Yeah.
Okay. So heel, recall, and place can be done within 6 classes, pending he's doing well. Okay. If you want all 6 commands, sit, stay, down, come, place, heel, then that's the 9 class package that you would want. Okay. So the first 6 classes, we would essentially teach those 6 commands on the short leash. And then classes 7, 8, and 9, helping you progress your obedience to a higher level, meaning off leash, okay? And then 12 classes is all 6 commands built to an off leash level, okay? The only command that has to be off leash reliable is your recall, okay? Everything else is if you're gonna use it, okay? So that's why like if someone's hiking through the woods and there's gonna be deer and raccoon and stuff, they want an off leash heel as well. Or if there's gonna be like moments where the dog is loose, but then there's another person and their dog, I wanna be able to call my dog, bring them in and not have to leash them up every single time. Okay. All that's just personal preference. Recall has to be off leash reliable. So by the end of any program, excluding the 12-week one, don't expect to have a fully reliable recall by the end of the program. It can take a few months. Okay, because remember, you have to go to the park. So you could intend to go to the park and practice today, but then Mother Nature decides to rain. Now you're not practicing, right? So now you gotta wait the next day. So we got weather, maybe go to the park and there's no distractions to work with. Maybe you go to the park and there's like just too many fireworks going on or whatever. it's too busy, there's nowhere to practice, right?
Yep.
Your intention can be to practice, but you're not always gonna be able to practice, and that's why recall is so kind of finicky. Plus, when we do recall stuff with the e-collar, dogs tend to be cautious and not want to leave the owner in fear of they're going to be called back with pressure.
Yeah.
So then we have another problem. How do we practice recall? The dog won't leave our side.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so when we cover it, I give you all the kind of common problems to help you try to work around it and or avoid it, but sometimes it just happens. So then if he gets too cautious and doesn't want to leave you, well, now you have to spend time getting him comfortable with exploring again and
Yeah.
leaving your side before you can practice recall again. So that adds more time to the command itself.
Sure.
Okay, so, but all the other commands, sit, stay, place, heel, and down, are pretty straightforward because you can practice sit, stay, down, and place even inside.
Yeah.
You don't need to go outside, right? Heel, you would practice because you walk your dog all the time. Recall is just the one that you have to make active effort to go out and actually work with your dog.
Yeah.
Okay? Questions on any of that?
I don't think I have any. What were the, one more time, the 6 and the 9, the different ones for each one? Like, what gets added onto the 9?
Okay, so like, for 6, we can cover heel and recall for sure,
Okay.
potentially place, pending everything's going well, okay? If we're doing 9, we do sit, stay, down, come, place, heel, so all 6 commands. So the first 6 classes, that's what we focus on, and then classes 7, 8, and 9, I'm helping you advance those commands to a higher level.
Yeah.
Okay? 12 is you for sure want those commands
Yes.
to a higher level. And what we do with the longer programs, pending how well you're doing, is if someone signs up for 12 and is strictly obedience, by the time we hit class 9, we start spacing out the last classes. Okay, so we'll have class 9, they essentially have all the information to build a dog to off-leash reliability, but now they need to screw up. Right, they need to go out and train, their dog screws up, they screw up, they misremember things, they make mistakes, something happens, like the firework and the dog panics, right? Then they come back for class 10. Here's a bunch of questions, here's some answers, here's some things that we need to tweak. I'll see you in a month or a couple of months, and they go off and they practice some more. So the 12 class program is actually longer, right? Because I understand that, again, you can intend to want to practice all the time, but if you don't have the time or the weather doesn't allow you to, I've had clients where they'll be like, class 10 to 11, they're like, we only practice 1 time this week. So that's why I started spacing it out.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, this is pointless, then we're not going to use
Right.
it.
Everyone's doing it, yeah.
Correct. Same thing could potentially happen with the 9, depending where you're wanting to take it. So, we covered the first 6, class 7 can be like, this is how we're gonna start progressing things. And then, because that's what happened, no, Webster was 6, but there was another, no, that was Hudson. I had trained a lot of cream retrievers recently. But Hudson is another cream retriever that I trained, same area. And they did 9, and that exact thing. They did the first 6, had their 7th class to learn how to do stuff off leash, and the 8 and 9 were kind of spaced out, okay? I don't care how people structure their programs, I just care that they let us know so that Maria can, of course, adjust my calendar,
Yeah.
okay? Other questions? You kind of touched on this earlier. A very common question is, when does the e-collar go away?
Yeah.
In my book, when you need it, it doesn't. Okay, so what that means is if he's going to be off leash at the park, you're going to be walking or anything that's anything longer than a quick little potty break, you want to have your collar on. Okay. Easiest way to explain why is, you guys drive?
Yeah.
You go to the expressway ever?
Yeah.
Do you go speed limit?
Nope.
Mostly.
Most people don't, right?
Yeah.
And then we see a squad car, what happens?
So,
Yeah.
Right, so that's called opportunistic behavior.
Oh.
Okay, when we can get away with something, we'll press the boundaries, and all animals do this, it's part of survival instinct. It's how like hunting is done, right? You gotta find your opportunity, so that's opportunistic. Is think of your e-collar as a component collar, okay? So when it's present, Finn's gonna be well behaved, he's gonna be compliant, he's gonna be obedient, right? On occasion, you might press something, but hey, now you have the ability to reinforce
Right.
on or off leash. But when it's off, he's gonna be a brat. Okay, so in the house, he's a great dog, you don't need it.
Yeah.
You go on a walk, he's gonna be off leash, you need it. Gonna be at the lake house, potentially need it for a period of time until you don't need it. The reason why I say that is because if the lake house for the most part is a static environment, right? Let's say it's just like the lake house and maybe a couple of neighbors and the same dogs. But other than that, nothing changes, right? Because it's static, he can get used to that environment, and you can get a very high level of reliability without always needing the collar.
Sure.
Okay? It's like same thing within the home, because the home is static, unless there's a guest coming over.
Right.
So when a guest comes over, put the collar on if you need it, right? No, guests don't need it. And then you'll find that he'll be more obedient because it's a static environment, okay?
Sure.
Now, it does depend, like if he's got a good prey drive or something, and you're at the lake house and there's a deer or a squirrel or something, then you might need to have the collar on.
Yeah.
But places where the dog frequents on a regular basis, they can get used to it. And some clients can move past the collar to a degree in those areas. But anything where it's like let's say Oz Park, where there's constant people walking through, bikers, rollerbladers, right, baseball games, bar mitzvah parties, jazz bands.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen this all there. Oz Park, a lot of different stimuli, right? Is I want to have that control if needed. So it's nothing good or bad. Again, and it has nothing to do with the training methods. Because like with food, if there's something more rewarding, you're not going to do it. If he's too stressed, not going to do it. Right? At least with the remote collar, I can make it happen regardless. Okay. So I think it's interesting because in the dog training world, there's two fronts. There's the positive only, and there's trainers like myself that use everything, versus and positives. And they'll say like, well, your dogs only listen when your tools are on, and then we say, well, your dog only listen when you have treats. When in reality, it's both. Right? With either method, if you don't have the reinforcer, whether positive or negative, you're gonna see a different performance.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I started realizing that kind of after a while with the treats, and like he's like got better, but just like only to a certain degree.
Right.
You know.
Right. And there's a cap on it because realistically speaking, like dogs don't give each other treats.
Yeah.
Right? They bite each other.
Yeah.
That's how dogs learn best by positive punishment because they use it themselves. You don't see dogs praise each other or give each other rewards and stuff like that. It's just if you do something wrong, there's a correction. Okay. So with the e-collar, it's the same kind of concept, but if you've done it correctly and you've done your homework, you should not be needing to use it all the time. It's just present in case something happens, off-leash dog encounter, somebody blows up a firework, maybe a random squirrel just runs across in front of them, and his instinct kicks in, things like that. Otherwise, if you feel like you're managing your dog or anything like that, you're doing something incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's how I can tell my clients if they're operating the remote like they're supposed to, because they'll talk about like how they're still having to use the collar. We can be on class 5. I'm like, we should be past this already for certain behaviors.
Right.
Right? Because if we've been doing heel by class 1 and we're on class 5 now, heel should already be a done deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's nothing good or bad. Just when you need it, you have it. When you don't need it, take it off.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's also good for us to both, usually I walk him in the morning around like a block or two to go to the bathroom, and then she walks him for like 20-ish minutes, maybe like an hour later, we come back and feed him, she'll walk him as I start work, and then together we walk him at lunch, and then afterwards, after work, either sometimes I'll walk him, sometimes you will, or sometimes it'll be a mix. So it's kind of like a variety throughout the day of who's gonna be walking him. Does
Sure.
that matter? Is that good to keep doing that variety, and so he knows with both of us that it is, I don't know, sometimes I always wonder, I'm like, how does he act on walks with you when I'm not present?
Sure.
And have you ever wondered how he does with me too? Because I wonder if it just changes.
So it can. The great thing about e-collar is that it makes life a lot easier. So if you watch Webster's video, which I suggest you do, typically how it works is the first person that works with the dog does all the work. Okay, and then once, let's say you did it first, work you through it, do a couple of sessions, and then we pass over, he would just, boom, right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you asked about, is it beneficial, should someone we have watching him do the e-collar, it transfers very easily. So if you tell him his number is this, and you do this when he does this, and they do it, boom, right away, it just ties it, because it's consistent amongst everybody.
Yeah.
And if you press the collar at 25, and she presses it at 25, and the rover person presses it at 25, it's the same.
Yeah.
Okay? So it keeps it very consistent for the dog, which is why it's transferred so easily. Do they need to? No. It would not affect your obedience, because dogs learn by association. So like, let's say with Finn, with you guys, you're strict, you reinforce all the training, and he's super obedient with you. You give him to a relative, and you don't have time to teach him e-collar, and he's a complete brat with them. And then when you pick him up, he might be a little loose because he had a little vacation, and you kick in with the e-collar, right? 5 minutes later, everything's back.
Yeah.
Okay, and dogs will learn that rhythm. So like, I equate it to kids. So growing up, like I'm the first grandchild, so I was spoiled.
Same.
So my grandma will let me get away with a lot of stuff, right? And then when I was with my mom, she would override my mom, and I would get away with stuff because I learned that. And then when I was with my mom, this is my best behavior.
Yeah.
Because I knew my mom was more strict. That's dogs.
Yeah.
Okay, so when they're with someone, they're like, oh, you're not doing e-collar and you're not reinforcing the rules, cool. They're just, they're being a brat. Now, e-collar does transfer very easily. The only command that doesn't is recall.
Yeah.
Okay, so once he gets it down, he's got the concept, but then they would also need to do a bit of training to get him to respond to them as he does to you. Everything else, sit, stay down, sit, stay down, place, heel, transfers very easy, okay? They just need to know how to do it, okay? Other questions?
Yeah, so, and again, I think, so the trainings are meant to be for us to learn how to use the collar with him, and then all of our walking is like the actual, like,
Training.
learning it, right?
Correct, yeah, so you're training as you live your life with your dog.
Yeah.
So like every walk that you go on for a potty break, part of it's gonna be structured heel, part of it's gonna be you can go potty now.
Yeah.
So, so every walk is just a training walk. So
Yeah.
most trainers are like, you train in a room, and then one day you hope it transfers to the real world. And it
Yes.
doesn't really work that way.
Yeah.
That's why we just train outside if we can,
Yeah.
okay? So we're outside, we're in Oz Park or Palmer Square, either or, and we're just out there training in the real world, okay? Do you have to? Nope, because of how I use the e-collar. Regardless if we train here or outside, you're gonna get the same level of control. The only difference is here, I obviously wouldn't have like random people and like dogs and stuff like that. There's distractions with the dogs we have here, but it's still a fairly controlled environment. But because of how I use the e-collar and how I teach it, regardless if you train inside of my building versus outside, you're still gonna get reliable obedience.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I guess that also brings up the point about like when we're on walks, if we're training him to walk by our side, he's no longer gonna be, because a lot of what he does is like if he sees another dog, just totally at random, sometimes he'll like do a little crouch and start
Just, like,
going
lay
slow, and
Yeah.
sometimes he'll just like stop, and I'm like, come on, and he won't go.
Yeah.
You know, so it's one of those two things, and sometimes he'll be walking, and then when the dog goes by, he'll just like, and try and like
Yeah.
get him, you know?
That's an easy fix.
Yeah,
Yeah. There would resolve that problem.
that's what I figured.
Yeah. So you'd be able to walk past dogs, butterflies, people, and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Of course, pending your reinforcement of the training. Okay.
Yep.
The biggest thing that holds people back is their comfort with escalating the level of the collar. So the collars that we use is the Doctor brand. In my book, they're the best brand there is. They have 127 individual stimulation levels, so 1 through 127 in increments of 1, which allows us to really fine tune it to the dog. Older models or like cheaper models will have like 20 levels. So 20 and 127 are the same. I just have 107 more divisions.
Yeah.
Okay. So if your dog is yelping at 10 but not listening at 9, you're stuck. Because since there's lesser levels, the jumps between levels is much greater
Sure.
versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 127.
Yeah.
So let's say I have a case, like the case, this is an extreme case, but I just had a final class with someone, and it's a behavioral case, and we've covered a lot of behavior, we've got a lot of progress, but there was just this little bit that they've been struggling with. And I told them 2 classes ago, which was a couple of months ago, 127 to correct their dog for behavior, because she's leash reactive, she's very reactive towards people and stuff. And they're like, okay, and so we just had the class, and they've not been doing that. And they're doing a lot of other stuff. And I'm like, well, you're making your life harder because you're trying to be nice, which I understand, but like, it's unpleasant for you because your
Yeah.
dog is not making any progress in that last little bit.
Yeah.
So like right there, had they done 127 2 classes ago, we could have covered something completely different today, you know? So the way we teach the collars, we always start low and we work our way up. So I don't just come in on 100. I help you find what I call the working level. Okay, the working level is what's going to work for your dog within that context. So if you're walking through an empty neighborhood, his number could be 20. You're walking past a number of dogs and like distractions, his number could be 45. So you're compensating for the environment through your power.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no fixed answer. It's not like your dog's number is 20 and everything is perfect at 20. I teach you how to read the situation and just adapt to everything, okay? So the number is really just a reference point. How he responds is what determines if it's the correct number. So if we're trying to teach the heel and we're at 20 and he keeps pulling, he needs more, right? Then go to 25, pulling, 30, pulling, right? We just keep going up incrementally. Eventually I hit 60, and all of a sudden, boom,
Yeah.
there he is, right? So we go up incrementally because we're trying to find what's that number going to be, right? And then I give you your homework and you just rinse and repeat. And then sometimes the number, it can be higher and then it'll go lower as the dog gets exposed to it. It can be static and then go higher, or it can be higher and then become lower, okay? Every dog is different. But essentially it's, okay, I started this walk and 60 worked yesterday, but right now I'm at 60 and he's just pulling the crap out of me.
Yeah.
65, 70, 75, until I finally get him to respond, and they go, oh, when there's giraffes and elephants around, my dog's number is 85, right, you know? So it's just, that it's common sense based, but it's the emotional component, right? Because as a human, you're like, man, I'm at 90 out of 127, that's 3/4 of the power.
Yeah.
You know, like your logic starts to kick in, and that's what holds people back. You won't screw your dog up physically, physiologically, emotionally, or mentally, or anything like that, because dogs are physical animals. It just has to be taught correctly. So I've had people who show up and they've already had an e-collar that they bought themselves. And most people tend to think punishment based. Oh, you do this, I'm 100, you're not going to do that, right? Mm-hmm. And if it's not taught correctly, the dog doesn't know why it happens or how to turn it off. So to them, it's completely random. So then they start to get a lot of anxiety because then they're like, I don't know how do I stop this thing? How do I prevent it from even happening, right? That's why we have to teach everything correctly. So even if we do go to a higher number, we didn't kick it. He did.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if 20 worked, I'd be at 20.
Yeah.
You know? So like that case was 127, and I have another reactive case that was doing daycare with us today. And that dog's they just had their first class a week ago. We got up to 35, and I saw them yesterday, and the dog has only had one moment of reactivity on 35. So that's what that dog needed.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like when I walk him, sometimes he's just so terrible, and sometimes he's not. Sometimes he's pulling on it real hard. Eventually, I get to the point where I'm like, I give him like this much room because I'm like, you're not. We're done with this. You know what I mean? It's got to be the same concept. So, yeah. I'm okay with that.
Anything else? Any other questions?
I don't think so.
No, I don't know.
When it comes to booking and then like the collar he would need, he is what, 40, 50 pounds?
65.
65, oh man, I'm off. So you have two options. One would be the Doctor 2300, and Maria will send you the information.
Okay.
The Doctor 2300, which is meant for 70 pounds and under. And then there's the Doctor Black Edition, which is meant for 70 pounds and over.
Okay.
How old is he?
He's not. I don't think
he's going to be a year, like in a couple, in like.
Okay,
Yeah,
so he's
mom's
ready size.
45,
Yeah,
dad
he
is 45.
shouldn't get bigger. I would hope he stays under 70.
Yeah.
Okay, so technically both are an option for him.
Okay.
The difference is with the 70 and over collar, you get more from less. Okay, so like let's say at 2300 his number is 60. On the Black Edition it could be 40.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, you just get it's more output.
Got it.
Because it's for bigger dogs.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I could put on my 8-pound Chihuahua and it's perfectly safe to use.
Yeah.
Only difference is really, other than that, is the box of the 2300 is a bit of a square box, so it's kind of bulky. And the Black Edition is a curved collar, so it's a more kind of aesthetically pleasing for the dog owner.
Gotcha.
But they're both options for him. Both models are fully waterproof, both the transmitter and the receiver. So you can go swimming and all that stuff, not a problem. The Black Edition is a 1 mile range, whereas the 2300 is a 3/4 mile range, okay? So plenty of range for the average family pet.
Yeah.
Only thing I would say is if he's gonna be swimming with the collar on, and he's got the e-collar on, is with the collar, you have to rotate every couple of hours because the dogs will have pressure sores, correct? And it's not from the stem, it's from 2 things poking against the neck for a period of time.
Yeah.
So we have to rotate, okay? So if it's like a regular day, like he's not gonna be wearing the collar that extensively, right? But let's say at the lake house and you're outside for 4 hours, right? Is if he's swimming, I recommend that people rotate the collar more frequently because it's not because of the pressure sores, but with his body heat and the moisture of the water and then the collar and the warmth and the heat of the sun, a hot spot can develop, okay? So then I'll tell the clients to rotate every 30 minutes to an hour to kind of help prevent that, okay? Otherwise, there's no.
Sorry.
No.
Is it meant to be like pretty tight on their neck?
It's
where
not fit.
like if he were to be in the water, like obviously he has a lot of hair, and as soon as he gets wet, he looks way smaller.
Mhm.
So all of that hair would it wouldn't be as puffy. So I can see it like dangling almost.
Yeah, it would be, so when it's fitted correctly, it won't move regardless.
Okay.
Okay, so it should stay in place. If I put it here and the dog scratches at it or whatever, it should always stay right here.
Got it.
If it's going like this, it's definitely
Too
too loose. Yep.
Yeah, we're talking about it.
When it comes to like the booking and everything, please give Maria a 5 to 7 business day turnaround.
Okay.
So, you put in your request, there was other requests, you got your appointment booked, and then now we've had other consultations come through, we've had previous consultations that are now booking, and we have my current 30 client list already. So now you're kind of back in queue, and then when you're up, she'll reach out and be okay, give me your availability and stuff like that. Once you're on the calendar, pending you have a consistent calendar, you're good. It's not the same process every week. Okay? So let's say 5 o'clock on a Friday was open and it worked for you and it worked for me, and you wanted to do 6 classes. Friday at 5 o'clock for 6 weeks plus 1, so 7. That is your time. No one's going to take it from you. Okay. We give you what we call priority. Let's say you cancel a couple classes or reschedule a couple classes, and we hit the 7th week. You've used up your priority, but you still have 2 classes left over. Maria will reach out and say hey, you lost your priority. We have to book someone because that's a high demand time. What other times are available so we can finish up the last 2 classes. Okay, so you don't lose them. Pending you cancel with outside of a 48-hour time frame.
Sure.
We give everybody 1 freebie cancellation, last minute cancellation, because we understand it should happen sometimes. But if you cancel outside of a 48-hour window, not a big deal. We can typically fill it in with another client. So yeah, that would be your time. If you did 9 weeks, it would be 10 weeks. That would be your time. If we're working on a rotating schedule, we do that as well. In those cases, the owner will send us their calendar as far in advance as they can. And then there might be a time where I don't see them for a couple of weeks because our calendars just don't line up.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's nothing good or bad, it just gives them more time to work on stuff and play see them next. So that's not a problem either. If you come to a point where it's we want to space out our classes, depending on what you do. So if you did a shorter program and you wanted to try to do that, like you did the recall and the heal and the place, and you have classes 5 and 6 left over and you want to try to get the most out of that, I don't care. I just care that you let us know, so more so ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the day before your class, you're you know what, we're gonna actually space these out, and then I'm stuck with a dead hour.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions?
I don't think so. So will she reach out to us to start to schedule, or do we reach out to her?
So what you can do to just kind of expedite the process a bit is if you know how many classes you want, 6, 9, 12, whatever, you can email us, say, hey Maria, we'd like to do 6, and then also here's our availability. Okay. So it removes a step.
Sure.
So what would happen is you would wait for her,
Yeah.
and she's going to ask you, what would you like and what's your availability?
Yeah.
Okay. So she goes, oh, I already got it, and she would just email you the contract form, and then she can already start looking,
Yeah.
and we don't waste time waiting for the response.
Sure.
And then, yeah.
What's kind of the best format for asking for, or just giving availability, kind of windows throughout the week in which are best? Is that what she's looking, what she would ask for, basically?
Yeah, so whatever your availability is, so if I have the client I just had was pretty much open, that client, the last call I just had was pretty much open availability. Because she's I work from home, so I can leave whenever I need to, right? So she's she can send Maria and say hey Maria, anytime, any day, I'm completely free.
Sure.
So that makes it just very easy.
Oh, I see.
But if it's like, oh, I work 9 to 5, you know, Monday through Friday, you know, 6 to 9, Monday through Friday, and then like Saturday all day, Sunday 9 till noon, would be like the windows you can give her. Ideally, we would want both people to be at the lessons.
Yeah.
It's not required. Definitely the first class you want to attend, and then the recall class. Everything else can kind of be filled in.
Yeah.
Plus, we film the stuff, so then you can always go back and watch your own video.
Sure.
But yeah, this way everybody's on the same page, and we're not getting any kind of misleading information, because that does happen sometimes as well. Or there's couples that argue, and they're like, they don't. I've had it happen where they won't believe the person, you know. So it's just like, yeah, I said that. Yes, that's true. But yeah, so you would give her whatever availability is that the both of you can make it would be ideal. And then if it's just not working out, and it's like, well, I really just want to get on the calendar, then you could, you know, maybe start off the first couple where it's just one person until finally you find a time where both people can be in on it. Evenings and weekends are high demand times because most people are 9 to 5, so like my schedule's reverse of people.
Yeah.
So if you have daytime availability, easier to get you in sooner. Otherwise, depending on your availability on those times, there may be a little bit of a wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
What time do you typically start in the morning?
Earliest is about 10 o'clock, just because I help with transports here at my daycare and just kind of the morning rush of stuff.
Sure.
And then after that, when things settle down, I'm pretty much just training.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you guys have boarding too, right? Don't you?
Correct. Yeah, we do daycare and boarding here. I have a 13,000 square foot space. Clients, so like if you train with us and you brought Finn and you brought him with this collar and everything, we reinforce everything here.
Oh,
We
nice.
reinforce training. It does, if he's done stationary work like place command, it opens up another activity for him. So it's not just play all day. We do playtime, we do treadmill time, there's the duration time, which is lay on this bed and don't move. And then there's decompression time, which is in the kennel.
Yeah.
Okay, and then right now, the way we have set up, everything's on the main floor. So earlier, like I had 40 dogs and it was like quiet.
Yeah.
Okay, so we structure the play, we don't let it go get out of hand or anything like that. So we reinforce everything, and then, so like everything's on the same page.
Do you have to do like a test run kind of with him?
Yeah, we do a 3-day evaluation, so
Okay.
ours is fairly longer than in most places.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the first day he would get acclimated to the facility, he would not interact with any dogs. He would see the dogs, he'd be present with the dogs, on the floor with the dogs, but he's not actively in a group.
Yeah.
Even like the friendliest of friendly dogs, when dropped off in a new environment, can go under stress because they're in a completely unfamiliar environment, okay?
Yeah.
So the first day we use just to get him acclimated to my handlers and the facility. The second day, we start to walk him around dogs walk around him, still not in a group yet. And then the third day would be, okay, everything's looking good, we pair him off with one dog, pair him off with another dog, start to see who he plays with, what's his play style.
Sure.
And then he's officially kind of grouped in.
Yeah.
We don't do large 30-dog groups. We do like 8 to 12 dogs. We keep it
That's
smaller
nice.
because it can just be overwhelming both for the
Yeah.
staff and for the dog.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we get a lot of dogs here that don't do well other places because it is overwhelming.
I think that's why he doesn't do,
Yeah.
well, he's done fine. We've taken him to some like daycares or like
Like dog
facilities
walks
by
and
us,
house.
yeah. But like they always say that well, the one place had a video camera so we could see.
Yeah,
He
that
was
was
like
sad.
sits in the corner by himself and we felt so bad.
Yeah.
And it was like 30 or 40 dogs. I don't know if he just gets overwhelmed and doesn't know what to do.
Mhm.
But it's weird because he'll play with dogs. He loves playing with dogs, like on a walk or something.
Like one,
Oh, sure.
one on
But,
one
like-
though,
but-
or like with 2
and-
or 3.
And he generally plays pretty well. But yeah, in like a big group, we think he just doesn't know what to do or
He
something.
freezes up. Very similar to when we try and get him in the car. He just like,
Yeah.
That can be fixed too.
good.
Yeah, we can fix it with the collar. It's pretty good. Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, no, we do smaller groups, and then like if they notice like a guy like him, let's say they put him in a group of 8, and they notice him like corner off, but they know he'll do good with like 6, they would put him in a group of 6 then.
Oh, nice.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
To keep that in mind for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for our clients that have trained with us, we don't require them to have to. So like everybody else that we've not trained, we got this new rule now, like at least bring your dog once a week, because then we wouldn't see dogs for months, and then it's like they're a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
You know, so it kind of just keeps them used to the facility. Guys that we've trained, because we have the tool, it's not required of. It's recommended that they do an evaluation and all that stuff, but because
Yeah.
we've trained the dog, I know the dog, and we have the tools to address things if needed, our training clients aren't held to that same rule.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So,
That's good.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
good.
that. Yeah.
Cool. Well, questions, because it's been very informative.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is,
Yeah.
made me feel a lot better about it.
Yeah, no problem. E-collar's got a bad rap, you know, plus people call it a shock collar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not. They use the technology in humans. The word shock comes from two places. One, old school e-collars only had like 5 levels, 3 levels, so like they were very much like shocking, right? Very abrasive. Also, it's the positive only front, trying to deter humans or people from using these tools.
Yeah.
You know, because how they feel about it. I mean, I've been doing this over 10 years now.
Yeah.
And every dog that comes through here trained by us is going on an e-collar. Because it's the most reliable tool.
Yeah.
And it's, once you like definitely watch like just Webster's lesson and stuff,
Yeah.
you just like, holy shit, like that was fast.
Yeah.
And then watch lesson 2.
Yeah.
And then you see, then you see like, holy crap, like lesson 1, and then wow, they walked up like, and he was right there.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
that's why we also film stuff too, because one, for you guys, you can always refer back to it, but then it proves that what we do is effective,
Yeah.
and also not what people think it is.
Yeah.
You know, we do get a couple of cases that are more severe behavioral cases where it's not the same approach like the one I just mentioned with 127. But of course, like that was like the last thing we brought in because everything else wasn't working.
Yeah.
So,
And he's kind of a weenie, so like I just don't expect, like, I would not be shocked if his like level was very low. Just
You'd be
Or if
surprised.
he gets scared. I think he might get scared of it. I think he might
Yeah.
not like the collar.
sure.
But yeah, we'll see what his tolerance is for.
Actually, acquiring the collar, how do we go about doing
So you can get through like online, Amazon.
Oh, just order online
Yeah.
ourselves? Okay.
Yeah, and you can get it to us too. I don't care where you get it from. I just care that you get one of those 2 models that I recommended. And Maria will send you the information. Okay, yeah, she'll send all that to you when she follows up. What I would suggest if you do order it online is do read your manual and test out your collar. You don't have to put it on the dog or on yourself or anything, but fiddle with it, okay? So the most common thing that could happen is when you turn the dial, it should go up in increments of 1, okay, fairly easily. If you turn the dial and it's like 1, 20, and it goes to 20 and like 30 and 15, like kind of all over the place, you have to deaden. You want to send that back, okay? There's something with the coil on the inside that's wrong. So then you return it and exchange it. It's this way you don't show up to the lesson, because I had it happen a couple of times.
Yeah.
Where the owner just shows up, they're like, just got the collar, and it's like a dud. I'm
Yeah.
like, crap, I'm like, we can't do anything with that, because it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay? But yeah, we have them here, or you can get them online. I just care that you get the correct, either one of the models that I
For
recommend.
him, yeah.
Yeah.
Either, yeah.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Awesome, cool. Well, if you guys have any other questions, you can always ask Maria.
Sounds good.
Otherwise, she'll get in contact with you in a few days.